Do-Won Kim stared at his screen aboard the Rixian flagship Star Seeker *. His purple eyes widened as he read the data again. Something wasn't right about this planet called Earth. "Admiral Park, sir," he called out, his voice echoing in the ship's pristine white command center. "You should see these readings." Admiral Jaho Park turned from the massive window showing Earth's blue and green sphere. He walked over with the quiet confidence of someone who had conquered 12 other worlds. His silver uniform sparkled under the bright lights. "What is it, Scientist Kim?" The Admiral's voice was calm but firm. "The planet's readings are unusual, sir." Do-Won pointed to his screen. "The gravity is 1.3 times stronger than our homeworld. The atmosphere contains corrosive elements, and the temperature changes are extreme, from freezing to burning hot in the same regions." Admiral Park waved his hand dismissively. "That's why it's classified as a Deathworld, Scientist Kim. We knew this already. But sir, it's not just any Deathworld. It's Class 13. Do-Won's voice shook slightly. "We've never attempted to conquer anything above Class 8. The Admiral laughed, a sound that made several crew members look up from their stations. "And that's precisely why the Council chose us for this mission. The Rixian Empire doesn't fear challenges." He pointed at Earth through the window. "Look at them. They haven't even achieved faster than light travel. They're primitive." Do-Won looked at the planet again. The swirling white clouds seemed to hide something ominous. He zoomed in on one of their target cities, watching tiny vehicles move about like insects. "Their technology is primitive, yes," he agreed carefully. "But sir, these life-form readings." He pulled up another screen. "Every scan shows new species we've never seen before. The biological diversity is off the charts. And the humans, they live in every environment on the planet. Desert, Arctic, tropical. Which means they're scattered and disorganized." Admiral Park interrupted. "Perfect for conquest." He straightened his uniform. "Begin the invasion preparation sequence. I want our first wave ready in 6 hours." "Sir," a new voice called out. It was Hae-Nul Lee, their young xenobiologist. "I've been studying their defense capabilities. They're strange." Admiral Park turned to her station. "Strange how?" "They fight each other constantly, sir. Their weapons are basic, mostly chemical explosives and simple projectiles. But," she paused, looking uncertain, "they've developed thousands of different ways to kill each other, and they keep fighting in conditions that would kill our soldiers instantly." The Admiral smiled. "Primitive weapons against our energy shields. They don't stand a chance." Do-Won and Hae-Nul exchanged worried looks as the Admiral walked away. On Do-Won's screen, a new alert flashed. The planet's magnetic field was interfering with their long-range scanners. Another strange reading to add to the growing list. The massive ship hummed as invasion preparations began. Soldiers in gleaming armor moved through the corridors, checking their advanced weapons. Medical officers prepared their sterile field units. Engineers ran final checks on their environment-proof vehicles. No one noticed the small alert on Hae-Nul's screen showing an unusual number of microscopic life forms in Earth's atmosphere, nor did they pay attention to Do-Won's weather report warning of something called a hurricane forming near their planned Atlantic landing zone. Admiral Park stood proudly on his command deck, watching his invasion fleet gather around Earth. 13 massive ships, each carrying 10,000 of the Rixian Empire's finest warriors. In his mind, this primitive world would be conquered within days. He had no idea he was about to lead his people into the deadliest environment in the known galaxy. Hae-Nul Lee hadn't slept in 3 days. She sat in the science lab of the Star Seeker *, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's data. Her colleague, Ta-Wan Kang, brought her another cup of stimulant drink. "You need to rest," he said, setting down the cup. "Look at this." Hae-Nul pointed to a screen instead. "These humans, they eat poison for fun." Tai-Hwan leaned closer. "What do you mean?" "They put chemicals called capsaicin in their food. It's a defense compound from plants that causes burning pain. And they enjoy it. She pulled up another screen. They also drink poison for entertainment, something called alcohol. It kills their brain cells slowly, and they laugh about it. Taiwan frowned. Maybe our readings are wrong. No, look at their biology. Hey Newell brought up a human DNA scan. Their bodies are filled with foreign organisms. Trillions of them. In their digestive systems, on their skin, everywhere. Any one of these organisms would kill us, but humans, they need them to live. An alert blinked on her main screen. The daily atmospheric report was ready. Hey Newell opened it, and her purple face turned pale. "This can't be right," she whispered. "What is it?" "The oxygen levels. They're over 20%. Her hand shook as she checked the numbers again. "Taiwan, that's enough to cause spontaneous combustion on most planets. How does nothing here catch fire?" Taiwan walked to the observation window. Earth hung below them, wrapped in swirling clouds. "We should tell the Admiral." "I tried." Hey Newell stood up and stretched her stiff muscles. "He says our environmental suits will protect us. But look at these temperature readings. Some places go from freezing to boiling in a single day. The pressure changes would crack our best suits in weeks." A loud chime interrupted them. Admiral Park's voice filled the lab. "All science officers report to the command center immediately." In the command center, Admiral Park stood before a large hologram of Earth. Do-Won Kim was pointing at different colored zones on the map. "Our first wave will land in these 6 locations," the Admiral announced as Hey Newell and Taiwan entered. "We need final environmental assessments." Newell stepped forward. "Sir, I strongly recommend we delay the landing." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "The humans, sir. They're wrong." Hey Newell struggled to find simple words for what she'd discovered. "Their bodies repair themselves from injuries that would kill us. They can lose entire limbs and survive. They regularly break their bones and heal stronger. Some of them deliberately jump out of flying vehicles for fun. And..." The Admiral's voice was cold. "Sir," Taiwan joined in, "what Officer Lee means is that any species that can thrive in these conditions must be incredibly resilient. The gravity alone would crush most races, but humans develop dense bones and strong muscles. They're built like living tanks." Do-Won Kim nodded in agreement, but Admiral Park just smiled. "Which is exactly why the Empire wants this world. Imagine our armies enhanced with human DNA." He turned to the hologram. "Begin landing preparations." Dismissed. As they left the command center, Hey Newell stopped at her sensor station. A new alert caught her eye. Massive energy readings from the planet's core. "What now?" Taiwan asked. "The entire planet's crust." Hey Newell whispered. "It's broken into pieces. The ground they live on is constantly moving, causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. And the humans just adapt." They both stared at Earth in silence. On its night side, cities glittered like stars, marking the presence of billions of beings who called this nightmare world home. The invasion countdown timer blinked steadily. 5 hours remaining. Commander Eugene Choi stood in her dropship as it entered Earth's atmosphere. The ship shook harder than anything she'd experienced in her 20 years of military service. Around her, 30 Rixian soldiers in gleaming environmental suits held onto their safety bars. Landing in 3 minutes, the pilot's voice crackled through her helmet. Their target was a place called Singapore. The humans had built a dense city there, despite the hot, wet climate that should have made it uninhabitable. The first warning sign came as they descended through the clouds. Red lights flashed across every soldier's suit display. "Commander," her second-in-command shouted. "The humidity is at 95%. Eugene checked her own readings. The air was thick with water vapor, far heavier than anything they trained for, but it was too late to abort. They were committed to the landing. The dropship touched down in an empty field. Eugene led her troops out, their boots hitting Earth's soil for the first time. The gravity pulled at them like an invisible weight, making each step harder than it should be. "Form defensive positions," she ordered. "Prepare for human resistance." But the humans didn't come. Instead, something much worse happened. "Commander," a soldier called out, panic in his voice. "My suit, it's showing errors." Yu Jin turned to look. Tiny spots of brown were appearing on the soldier's perfect white suit. As she watched, the spots grew larger. "Mine too," another soldier shouted. Yu Jin felt her heart race as she realized what was happening. The wet air was doing something to their suits, eating away at them. Later, they would learn the word rust. But right now, all they knew was that their advanced technology was failing. She grabbed her communicator. "Base, this is Ground Team Alpha. We need immediate." A deafening crack split the air. Lightning struck a tree near their position, the electricity dancing across the wet ground. 3 soldiers fell as their suits' systems overloaded. Inside the ship, Yu Jin ordered, "Everyone back." The rain started. Not the gentle rain they knew from their homeworld, but heavy drops that hit like tiny bullets. Within minutes, the field turned to mud, sucking at their boots. 2 more soldiers fell, their suits completely shut down. Yu Jin's communicator crackled to life. It was Commander Taesung from the North American landing team. "Equipment failing. Insects everywhere. Acid rain. Request immediate." The transmission cut off. Yu Jin looked at her remaining troops. Their white suits were now streaked with brown and green. Some kind of tiny Earth life forms were already growing on them. Back to the ship. Full retreat. They ran through the mud, fighting Earth's gravity with every step. The rain grew heavier, reducing visibility to almost nothing. Lightning struck again and again, following the metal in their suits. Finally, they reached the ship. Yu Jin did a head count. She'd lost 8 soldiers, not to human weapons, but to Earth itself. As they took off, she looked down at the city through the rain. Humans walked calmly through the storm, holding simple devices called umbrellas over their heads. Some children played in the rain, laughing as lightning lit up the sky. "Base, this is Commander Choi," she reported, her voice shaking. The landing has failed. Earth's environment. It's not just hostile. It's actively fighting us." In the background, she heard similar reports coming in from around the planet. The London team was being devastated by something called acid fog. The Moscow team's suits had frozen solid. The Sydney team was retreating from tiny creatures called spiders. Not a single human had fired a weapon. They didn't need to. Earth was defending itself. Security Chief Sun Mi-beik stared at the pile of ruined equipment on her desk. Just 3 days on Earth had destroyed more Rixian technology than all their previous conquests combined. She picked up what used to be a plasma rifle. Its beautiful silver surface was now covered in brown rust and something green and fuzzy that the humans called mold. The weapon wouldn't even turn on. "Report," she ordered her team leaders who stood before her. "Chief," the first officer stepped forward. "We've lost 60% of our ground vehicles. The moisture in the air gets inside everything. And these tiny life forms, bacteria and fungi, they eat through our materials like their food." Sun Mi nodded grimly. She'd seen it herself. Their advanced metals, designed to withstand the vacuum of space, were being destroyed by microscopic Earth creatures. "The humans," she said. "What are they doing?" "That's the strange part, Chief." Another officer spoke up. "They're just watching us. Some of them point devices at us and laugh. They call them phones. They don't seem worried at all." A loud crash of thunder made everyone jump. Through her office window, Sun Mi watched another storm approach. The humans called this a normal spring day. Her computer beeped with an urgent message. It was from a scout team in a place called Brazil. "Chief," the scout's voice was panicked. The plants are attacking us. They have thorns that cut through our suits. And the trees, they're full of creatures that drop on us from above. Retreat to base immediately, Sun Mai ordered. It was the fourth team she'd lost to Earth's plant life. She turned back to her officers. What about the polar base? Complete failure, one replied. The cold freezes our fuel lines. And there's this stuff called salt in the ocean. It destroys our ships faster than enemy weapons. Even the air turns to deadly crystals up there. Sun Mai walked to her window. In the distance, she could see a human city. Their buildings were made of simple materials. Concrete, steel, glass. Materials that should be primitive and weak. Yet these buildings stood strong against Earth's constant attacks, while Rixian structures were crumbling. Look at this, she said, pointing to a group of humans walking outside. No environmental suits, no protective shields. They'd breathe this toxic air like it's nothing. Their bodies just deal with it. A new alert flashed on her screen. Base 3, in a place called Arizona, was reporting problems. The sun's radiation there was so intense it was cooking their equipment. Yet humans lived in this desert happily, needing only thin cloth coverings and water to survive. Chief, her senior officer spoke quietly. There's something else. The human guerrilla fighters. They're using Earth against us. Explain. They don't attack our strong points. They wait for rain to short out our systems. They lead us into areas with hostile life forms. They use the terrain to trap us in floods or mudslides. It's like they're working with the planet. Sun Mai looked at her ruined equipment again. Every piece of their advanced technology was being defeated by Earth's simplest elements. Water, air, tiny life forms, even dirt. Send a message to Admiral Park, she said finally. Tell him Earth isn't just a death world. It's alive, and it's fighting back. Outside her window, another storm rolled in. She watched as humans simply opened their umbrellas, completely unbothered by the acid rain that was eating through Rixian armor. They weren't primitives, she realized. They were survivors, evolved to thrive in what should have been impossible conditions. And the Rixians had just invaded their home. Medical Officer J1 Song had never seen anything like this in his entire career. His medical bay, usually spotless and organized, was now full of sick and dying Rixian soldiers. Their perfect purple skin had turned various shades of green and brown as Earth's diseases attacked them. Doctor, a nurse called from across the room. We have 10 more coming in. J1 rushed to help the new patients. These soldiers had been stationed in a place called India. Their symptoms were different: high fever, breathing problems, and strange spots all over their skin. What happened? He asked one of them. The air, the soldier whispered. We thought our filters were working, but something got through. The humans, they live with these invisible killers everywhere. J1 checked his medical scanner. The results made him feel sick. Each soldier was fighting off not one or two, but hundreds of different Earth organisms. Their immune systems, used to the clean environments of Rixian worlds, couldn't handle it. He walked to his computer and opened a channel to Admiral Park. Sir, we have a serious problem. What is it, medical officer? Our soldiers are dying, sir. Earth's diseases. They're unlike anything we've seen. Even our best medicines don't work. He sent the Admiral some pictures. Soldiers with fungal growths on their skin. Others with bacterial infections in their lungs. Some who couldn't stop coughing after breathing in something called pollen. How are the humans not affected by these things? The Admiral asked. That's just it, sir. They are affected. But their bodies. J1 pulled up a human medical scan. They've evolved to live with these diseases. Their immune systems are like armies, fighting millions of battles every day. And winning. A loud alarm sounded. Another emergency case was coming in. This time, it was a scout who had been stationed in Africa. What happened to this one? The Admiral asked. He drank some local water, sir. Just a few drops got through his suit. J1 checked the soldier's vital signs. The water was full of microscopic life forms. His stomach, it's like a war zone in there. On another bed, a soldier started coughing. Hard. Something black came out of his mouth. Earth has these things called spores, J1 explained. They float in the air, get into everything. They're trying to grow inside our people's lungs. The admiral was quiet for a moment. How many soldiers have we lost to these diseases? J1 looked at his numbers. 300 dead, 2,000 sick. And sir, he paused, not wanting to say the next part. It's getting worse. These Earth organisms, they're learning, adapting. Every time we think we've found a cure, they change. And the humans, they're immune to most of it. Their bodies have fought these battles for thousands of years. They even use some of these organisms to make food. Things called yogurt and cheese and beer. J1 shook his head in disbelief. They take deadly bacteria and make them into snacks. Another alarm sounded. More patients arriving. Sir, J1 said quietly, we need to leave. Earth isn't just killing our soldiers with its weather and gravity. The whole planet is alive with invisible armies, and they all see us as invaders. As if to prove his point, 3 more soldiers started coughing. On his screen, J1 watched as their vital signs dropped. Earth's microscopic defenders were winning another battle. And somewhere out there, billions of humans went about their day, completely unbothered by the deadly soup of life forms they called air. Colonel Min-Ho Kwon watched in horror as the massive storm approached his fleet. The humans called it a hurricane. His ships, the pride of the Rixian Navy, looked tiny next to the swirling monster of wind and water. All ships, rise above the storm. He ordered through the command channel. We can't, sir, his captain replied. The winds, they're too strong. Min-Ho looked at his readings. The wind speed was over 200 kilometers per hour. The ocean below them had turned into mountains of water. Rain hit their ships like bullets. Status report, he demanded. Ships 3 and 4 have lost power. Ship 7 is taking on water. Ships 2 and 5 can't maintain altitude. Through the command center's windows, Min-Ho saw one of his ships try to rise. The hurricane's winds caught it like a toy and threw it back down. The ship hit the water with a crash that he could hear even through the storm. Send a distress signal to the fleet, he ordered. But the storm was blocking their communications. They were alone. Lightning flashed around them, drawn to their ship's metal hulls. Each strike overloaded more systems. Alarms blared everywhere as water poured through failing seals. Sir, his science officer called out, you need to see this. On the main screen, weather data scrolled past. The officer's hands shook as he explained. This isn't even their worst storm, sir. They get these hurricanes every year. Some are even bigger. Min-Ho couldn't believe it. How do human ships survive this? They don't always try to, sir. They have special buildings called harbors where ships hide from storms. And they have people called meteorologists who predict these storms days in advance. Another ship went down. On his screen, Min-Ho watched its crew escape in survival pods. But the pods weren't designed for Earth's angry oceans. The waves tossed them around like leaves in the wind. Sir, his captain said quietly, the humans, they're coming to help. Min-Ho looked at his radar. Small orange boats were heading toward his fallen ships. Human rescue vessels, fighting through the storm to save their enemies. But why? He asked. We came to conquer them. Look at their ships, sir. The science officer pointed to his screen. Simple designs, strong hulls, flexible materials. They're built to work with the waves, not fight them. They've learned to survive here. The storm grew stronger. Min-Ho's own ship groaned as the wind tried to tear it apart. Through the rain-covered windows, he saw more human boats approaching. They moved with the waves instead of against them, riding the water like it was a road. All ships, he ordered, allow the humans to help. And send our data back to the fleet. What data, sir? Everything. They need to know. He watched another of his ships sink beneath the waves. They need to know that Earth's weather isn't just powerful. It's a weapon. And the humans, they've turned it into their ally. As if answering him, thunder shook the ship. Rain hammered against the windows. The hurricane's eye wall, a solid wall of wind and water, approached his remaining ships. On his command screen, the casualty numbers kept rising. Not from human weapons, but from Earth itself. Their mighty space fleet, which had conquered so many worlds, was being destroyed by simple water and wind. And through it all, the human rescue boats kept coming, their crews ready to risk their lives to save the very aliens who had come to conquer them. That Minho realized was the true power of Earth. It had created beings who could not only survive its horrors, but help others survive them too. Data analyst Soo-Jin Park hadn't left her station for 2 days. Empty cups of stimulant drinks covered her desk as she stared at the streams of information flowing across her screens. Something about the humans bothered her, and she was determined to find out what it was. "You need to sleep," her assistant said, bringing her another drink. "Look at this first." Soo-Jin pointed to her main screen. "I've been studying human history. Do you know what they did when they found deadly animals? They'd made them into pets. Dogs, cats, horses, all once wild predators. Now they sleep in human beds." She pulled up another screen. And here, they found plants that could kill them. Instead of avoiding them, they learned which parts were safe and made them into food. They call it agriculture. "What are you saying?" her assistant asked. "I'm saying we completely misunderstood Earth's Class 13 rating." Soo-Jin started typing faster, pulling up more data. "We thought it meant the planet was dangerous. But that's not it at all." She opened a new window showing human medical data. "Look at their bones. They'd break and grow back stronger. Their skin gets tougher where it's damaged. Their muscles grow bigger when stressed. Even their minds." She paused, shaking her head in disbelief. "Their minds what?" "They get stronger from trauma. They call it resilience. When something hurts them, they don't just heal, they adapt. They get better, stronger, smarter." Soo-Jin stood up and walked to the ship's observation window. Earth hung below them, beautiful and deadly. "We thought they were primitive because they hadn't reached the stars yet," she continued. "But down there, they're building huge machines just to fight each other. They create new weapons, not because they need them, but because they want to see if they can. They split atoms for fun. They dive into the deepest oceans just to look around." She turned back to her screens and pulled up more images. Humans climbing the tallest mountains, running across burning deserts, swimming in frozen lakes. "They're not primitive," she whispered. "They're apex predators. Earth isn't just a death world. It's a training ground. Everything here is trying to kill them, all the time. And instead of dying," she pointed to a video of human children playing in a dangerous storm, "they treat it like a game." Her assistant's face turned pale. "We need to tell the Admiral. I already sent him the data." Soo-Jin pulled up her final analysis. Earth's Class 13 rating isn't about the planet. It's about what the planet created. Humans don't just survive here. They thrive on challenge. They seek out danger. They get bored when things are too safe. Warning alarms started blaring throughout the ship. On her screen, Soo-Jin watched as more human ships rescued their stranded soldiers from the hurricane. The humans were risking their lives to save their would-be conquerors. "That's the scariest part," she said quietly. "They're not just strong. They're not just adaptable. They're kind." She looked at her assistant. "Do you understand what that means? They fight the planet's dangers every day, and they still have the strength to be gentle, to help others, even their enemies." The ship shuddered as another storm approached. Through the window, they could see lightning illuminating the clouds below. "We didn't invade a primitive world," Soo-Jin concluded. "We invaded nature's perfect weapon testing facility, and its best creations." She watched as more human rescue ships braved the storm. Its best creations are just starting to reach for the stars. Admiral Jeho Park stood in the ruins of his command center. The mighty Star Seeker's windows were cracked from storm damage. Its floors were covered in rust and mold. Warning lights flashed everywhere he looked. "Status report," he said quietly. His remaining officers looked at each other nervously before Commander Eugene stepped forward. "Sir, we've lost 4 ships to storms, 3 more to equipment failure. 2,000 troops are sick with Earth diseases. All ground bases have been abandoned." She paused. "And the humans, they're still just watching us." The Admiral walked to his broken window. Earth's clouds swirled below, hiding the deadly world that had defeated his mighty fleet without firing a single shot. "The Council must be warned," he said finally. "Begin evacuation procedures." But even retreat proved dangerous on Earth. The ship's engines struggled against the heavy gravity. The atmosphere battered them with winds and lightning. Rust and mold had weakened their hulls. "Sir," a pilot's voice crackled over the radio. "Ship 5 can't break free. The gravity, it's pulling us back down." Admiral Park watched helplessly as the ship spiraled back toward Earth. Then something unexpected happened. Human aircraft appeared, flying alongside the failing ship. They attached cables to it and helped guide it to a safe landing. "They're saving our people," Commander Eugene whispered, "even after we tried to conquer them." The Admiral nodded slowly. He remembered the data analyst's report about human nature. They weren't just strong enough to survive Earth. They were strong enough to show mercy. More alarms blared as the Star Seeker fought to reach orbit. The ship's hull creaked under the strain. Pieces of its once beautiful surface fell away, eaten by Earth's aggressive atmosphere. "Sir," his science officer called out, "you should see this." On the main screen, hundreds of human satellites appeared. They had been watching the whole time, tracking every Rixian ship. "They could have attacked us at any time," the science officer said. "Their satellites carry weapons, but they chose not to use them." "No," Admiral Park replied. "They let Earth fight for them, and Earth is a better warrior than any weapon we have." Finally, the remaining ships broke free of Earth's gravity. As they gathered in space, Admiral Park looked at what was left of his fleet. 7 ships out of 13. Less than half their troops. Every vessel was damaged, stained, and rusted. "Send this message to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "Earth is not to be approached. Its Class 13 rating is not a warning about the planet. It's a warning about its people." He looked one last time at the blue world below. In the time they had been there, Earth had killed more Rixians than all their previous wars combined. Not with weapons or armies, but with rain, wind, gravity, and microscopic life. "The humans," he continued, "are not primitive. They are the ultimate survivors. They turned a deadly world into their playground. They made Earth's weapons into their tools. And they did something even more remarkable." He thought about the human rescue ships. They kept their compassion. As the fleet prepared for the long journey home, Admiral Park made one final log entry. "Let it be known across the galaxy, Earth is not a prison. It's not a death trap. It's a forge, and it has created something we never imagined possible. Beings who can dance in acid rain, laugh at lightning, and breathe poison as air. The humans aren't trapped on a death world. They are the death world. And they're coming to the stars." The Rixian fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. On the surface, humans continued their daily lives, unaware that they had just been judged as the most terrifying species in the known galaxy. Not because they were cruel or violent, but because they had made the impossible look easy.